This morning, I woke up with a neck cramp or whatever it is that happens basically when you sleep the same exact way every single night. And then one night, your body just says, nope, we don't do it like that anymore. We don't like that. This is what kicked off energetically a really vivid download for today's message, where basically every day you do the same thing, but one day a negative occurrence, something happens from that exact same thing. It's interesting because the specific remedy for neck pain in this way is different than other pain. For example, with other injuries, we rest, we stop moving when things get irritated, but the opposite is true for sleeping wrong or stiff pains. The pain deliberately needs motion, stretching, embracing the irritated areas. Sometimes you even need to lean into the pain. Maybe this will come back later in this message, but this is kind of the outline, is how I see it. This stiff neck, this tightness. You could be experiencing this right now, and this could be kind of a sign this message is for you if you're having issues with sleep stiffness. But more than just literal or a physical body issue, I think the point of the irritation in this way, this form, is to really lean into it, take the action to push through the pain in some way instead of elevate, rest it, things like that. In a few messages back, I talked about how sometimes there's a need to surrender and sometimes there's a need to have agency. I think this message is going to be about agency. That's how it's being presented to me today. Like a lean into the pain of your neck to recover instead of rest it, instead of elevate it. There's some sort of opposite in today's message that wants to be clarified for you. So a lot of Mercury is coming through in today's reading, which, by the way, if you are new here, I just want to say I leave what I pull, what I channel, all this stuff about stiff necks and things like that in the description. If you're interested in how the hell I get what I get, sometimes I don't even know and I have to write it in there. So it's a unique vibe here for my method of channeling, and I do what I can to fill in those questions in the description. That's kind of like the safe space for all of us. So I write notes for my detail lovers. You're always welcome to them. I will be sharing today a frequency that did come through. I just want to make a note that I am sharing my sounds channel that I made on a whim again. Thanks, guys, for subscribing to that, even though I didn't really ask. I love you, too. I just wanted to say that about that sounds channel really quick. The reason it's not my voice isn't because I don't like my voice. It's supposed to be soothing, it's supposed to be a sleep channel. So I didn't feel right putting my voice, which is kind of animated, has a lot of expression, with this channel. It didn't feel like I was very soothing for sleep. I'm more of a little bit too energetic. So just to answer some of that feedback, I'll leave that in the description as well with the hertz for today, especially with this sleep stiffness still coming through. Lots of channels, lots of downloads about sleep. So with Mercury here, I'm sensing this is a message for someone who has a lot of mental noise. You could have a Mercury-dominated chart with a lot of Gemini, with a lot of Virgo present somewhere, stelliums. I see this being perpetual mental noise, like you have an overactive mind as a result of a much higher intellect than average. More output and input just exists here at a faster pace. You have a faster processing speed than most. Either you're aware of that or you're not. So I think for this specific message, it's about your inputs, it's about your outputs. It's going to be talking about your energetic system as a whole, I see here. You may have had, and you may be aware of it, that you've had too many inputs going on. And you could be kind of aware that this input-output system that you have is exhausting you to be processing so much at such rapid pace all the time. There's a lot of focus here that you have on your mental noise, your mental chatter. Since burnout is coming through here, I sense there's two causes with this collective. The first one is very literal. A lot of people commonly understand burnout as a mental load where you kind of get to this peak of overstimulation and then you crash, and they understand that as the first part of burnout. It's very obvious, especially if you're overactive for so long and you have a mental crash. People kind of see that very clearly as burnout. But the second side of burnout that's not very clear, that's also reflective in this reading, is the emotional toll that shows up much later. After those cycles of hyperactivity and crash, hyperactivity and crash, there's an emotional toll that is more prolonged that can come from those waves happening too frequently. This usually happens like after that space goes unchecked for a long time. Experiencing those highs and lows for too long can lead to this emotional place where there's no clear identifiable high. It's just a low. So you may, from what I'm seeing, this collective may experience both forms. They might be important to them, and that might resonate with you a lot. But for who this is for specifically, you're currently in the mental overwhelming part is what I see here. I don't see you in that emotional prolonged cycle, but you're familiar with it. There's something intellectually over-functioning and crashing, and you're kind of like in that cycle of over-functioning and then at a peak and then get to that lower state. And you don't know why or feel in control really of your hyper-functioning mental state. But you seem very familiar with burnout. So I think this message will involve this up and down space, not the deeper emotional burnout space, because it's through the ups and downs that there's a message here for you to stop that prolonged emotional burnout from happening. So if that's resonating with you, if you feel like you've experienced both, if you know what I'm talking about, then this message is for you. Okay, so before I get into this part, I have to say, with everything coming through, you are just so much brighter than you even see. I just kind of have to hype you up for a second. And then I'll stop because I don't want to make it too weird, because this specific group of people has no idea how brilliant they really are. I kind of see a pattern of people meeting you and many walking away silently just in awe of how quickly you're processing and relaying information. There are a lot that might misunderstand how quick it happens for you, but they might not tell you this. Most of them think this in encounters with you. With this intense processing ability comes intense responsibility. You might have more susceptibility to the burdens of highly functioning intellect, meaning you're going to have to get real comfortable in awareness of your hyperactive states before it leads to those deeper emotional repercussions that we just talked about. The message today seems to be some sort of call to look at the hyperactive mental state. You might not like to hear this, or it might not bother you. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The space you're in now is being affected in a way you maybe can't see clearly. Spirit highlights inputs and outputs again. This energetic system you have going on, your equilibrium. There's a emphasis on focusing where your energy is being directed at this time. I see you having specific goals or tasks, but let's call them open tabs, like a computer having a bunch of open tabs. Let's call them that. The open tab analogy is kind of important because it's showing me you may logically understand you need to close these tabs to operate effectively. I see you focusing on the tabs, but you're not closing them out of either having just too many open that you've lost track or forgetting that they are open as a whole. So I see you perceiving these tabs as mental noise, like obsessive thoughts, rumination, spinning. You're perceiving this energy, these tabs, as your thoughts. And you may feel you need to silence them. And that's how you close these tabs. That's your observation on what's burning you out, on what's exhausting you. But what's missing and what's the focus of this reading is Spirit is proposing, instead of looking at these open tabs as thoughts, as something you need to control, the thoughts instead are a byproduct of the open tabs, not the tabs themselves. So the open tabs, aka the reason for burnout, are not your thoughts like you may believe. There's no trick to settle or calm your thoughts here. The open tabs for you actually are incomplete actions that need to be closed. And those are the tabs that are causing burnout over time, both emotional and mental. Now I'm being shown kind of like a way to think of this as actions, these actions as loops. Our system works better when energy flows in a consistent loop. So it starts, it completes, and then it returns to start again. Think of it that way. What's happening on a metaphysical level for you is that these incomplete action loops have piled up in your energy field and are kind of like taking your energy from starting a new task and over time building up to the point to where you experience burnout, where you experience both these hyperactive states of thoughts and then that deeper emotional crash that we talked about, where it takes much longer, it's prolonged. A good example of this is think about these tabs, this incomplete loop, as making a note to make an appointment for later. Very innocent. We all do it. But then what you're doing in the energy realm is you're opening a door, an energy space, but then you're not completing that space to return the energy back to you. So it kind of floats around. Just open energy that you've put into something, you've created an intention, and you haven't completed it. And I see there being a lot of open doors, a lot of open tabs where you haven't returned that energy back to self. This could look like a huge to-do list that runs incomplete. It could also be abstract desires. You don't have to really be structured in creating a list at all. You could just have like a desire to do a specific large thing in your life, like create a business, have a lot of money, generally be happier. Each intention that you're setting for your future is opening a door, an energy field. And when you're opening it and not completing anything, you're kind of like letting your energy sit there without coming back to you. It's the same effect as like a hyperactive to-do list. It's still causing incomplete floating loops. I think what Spirit really wants to emphasize here is your brilliance makes you see systems strategically. Like you're zoomed out in a visionary-like way. But the downside of this means because you're so zoomed out and you have such brilliance, you're unconsciously opening tabs and incomplete energies in your field a lot more often than someone who wouldn't be zoomed out and wouldn't be looking in the future as often. You might not even be aware that you're doing it, or you're aware you're doing it and maybe perhaps think it's helping in some way, like keeping you organized or planning something or momentum. But from a purely energetic standpoint, you have all these incomplete tabs open, all these doors open in your energy field. I do see this as like an innocent thing, whether it be unconscious or these doors are kind of a gateway for you to get motivated, to remember the thing, to create paths. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But opening these doors, these tabs in your field is leading to these hyperactive mental states that Spirit is pointing to, these mercury dominated mental states that are hyperactive. So the brilliance that I really want to stress is that this is your strength, being a visionary, thinking about the future, zooming out. It's not anything you have to quote unquote fix. This visionary side of you just needs to be properly maintained, and you have to see your energetic field for what it is. Like think of a luxury car is a good example. It's like it needs higher quality maintenance. It's more expensive because your engine and parts are the best of the best. They're the fastest of the fast. So you must be aware that your strengths hold more quality and expensive maintenance. And as a result, to keep you functioning, you have to kind of be closing more energetic doors because you're going to be opening more at the same time. That's just how your brain works. It's looking at the vision. It's planning for the future. So the first part of this is to really look at yourself as a luxury machine. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but that's what's being presented to me is we're redirecting the focus, what causes burnout, from your thoughts being the problem to having all these open doors, these incomplete tabs floating around your energetic space and field. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to actually close these incomplete energetic open tabs, these doors, whatever we want to call them. You're probably guessing at this point, okay, this seems simple enough. Like I just close the tabs and we're done. I complete the action. And you wouldn't be wrong. I just think maybe there's two things that are being presented to kind of like help this hyperactive space you get to, and then that later burnout space you get to. So the first part is recognizing that your thoughts are not the problem. You are not burning out because you're mentally hyperactive as a whole and that's your personality. You are not emotionally burning out because of your mind. That is not the issue here. Your mind isn't the problem. It's the byproduct of having too many open and incomplete energetic tabs. Or another way to say this is too many incomplete inputs that you're putting in your field without the output that actually returns the energy back to you. So now that you recognize it's not a matter of controlling your thoughts or getting frustrated about ruminating or overfunctioning in a mental way that maybe you label obsessive, I see here, we could talk about how to close the tabs. Spirit shows this in two parts. The first part is, again, not focusing on your thoughts as a problem and having clarity about where they come from, where these hyperactive thoughts originate from these open doors, these open tabs. And I also think that that goes along with saying that you are like a luxury vehicle, looking at yourself that way. But the second part is dialing in on your lists or the inputs you create. So this looks like you're planning or thinking about what needs to be done on a practical level, like being more cautious about what you open within your field and being intentional each day about it. So this could look like asking yourself in your to-do list, your plans, if you're zooming out too much, if you're strategically setting super long-term goals or impossible things that will take months to finish and opening those doors in your field? Or are you just putting down too many things in general on your radar to eventually get to so you won't forget? A bunch of like small tasks that you could never finish in one day. And so I think the field works best when you set small intentions or micro to-dos and you fully complete that with intention each day. Even if it doesn't seem like a lot, sending that energy back to you, not planning out weeks, months, years in advance and opening all those doors, all those tabs in your field. And this doesn't discount the importance of planning and setting goals. I think that, there's significance to that. There's help to that. But I think what this is really specifying in this reading today is what you can hold in the moment, in the day, in the present. And that's where our field can be the most balanced, especially for the luxury vehicle that you are. You could finish probably a lot more than the average person could in one day because you're a faster running machine. So when motivators or self-help books kind of like talk about creating actionable steps, they miss the reason energetically why it's important and why that matters. They just kind of pretend it's like a logical thing. But the reason it's important that I'm being shown here today is this field, this energy perspective, and constantly balancing your energy and completing incomplete loops creates a space of equilibrium. And when you don't do that, it's not just about not keeping promises to yourself or like some motivational thing. It's just building energy and not releasing it. And that built up energy that you don't release eventually leads to overfunctioning mentally, which is what actually leads to both forms of burnout. So when you notice that you're ruminating, you're obsessively thinking, you can't stop your thoughts, this isn't because you need to meditate more or there's something, wrong with this. You don't need to work harder to control your thoughts. It's because from an energy standpoint, if we just look at the metaphysical, you're just slightly needing to rebalance, to reharmonize the inputs and outputs of your energetic field. You must create an intention that is completable so you can open that tab, finish that tab, and the energy now circulated back to the starting place to be redirected into a new tab. And when you don't do that, and that energy gets trapped or that energy gets built into multiple different open tabs that are incomplete, this is also why you lose motivation. You lose that energy. It's being taken to another place and not returned. In other words, you must close a tab to start a new one. So the message today might seem obvious after you hear it maybe, but it's really heavily overlooked because, again, mainstream self-help pretends it's not about energy balance when it very much is. When these motivational leaders kind of tell you to take actionable steps and goals, they're not wrong, but what they're really talking about is energy rebalancing and the cycles of inputs and outputs within your direct energetic field. They can't really understand the repercussions and connect it directly to the burnout. They can't really explain to you why your obsessive thinking is happening or why you're over planning or why you've lost momentum or motivation or why this keeps happening. They can't give it a science. They can't give it a name. And so they may not really connect the two energy systems for you in a way to understand like this. But we don't need science here. You can connect these points and start experimenting yourself to see it really happen for you. Once you start to pay attention and experiment, you don't need science to confirm that to you. You've already done it. So the message today is you don't need to fix the obsessive thoughts, the hyperactive mental space you're in to stop your burnout. It's not your thoughts that are leading this burnout. In fact, it's a strength to be able to balance so many inputs as quickly as you do. You have a much higher threshold than most. And that's why this connection feels more blurry, because you can sleep the same way every night and it hasn't been a problem before. Like you have had a bunch of open tabs before and you've handled them all and you haven't been burnt out. So why is my neck all of a sudden stiff? Why is it hurting now? Why am I burnt out? It's the same idea here. Until you learn to output at the same speed that you can hold inputs, which is fast, luxury vehicle fast, you might struggle with more symptoms of imbalance, with more tendencies to burn out. Because really, you're a high luxury performing vehicle that needs more expensive maintenance because you can operate at these higher speeds than most. This last part is maybe a confirmation to those who already instinctively know to do this, but keep leaving comments. The comments themselves do not have to be anything personal about you. Think of these as energetic nudges. This helps me align to your energy more efficiently and be able to channel for you. And I want to be able to do that. I read each and every one, always. None are missed. None are ignored. I am so thankful for each and every one of you and love you all. So, cheers, friends.